Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tanner's Favorite Things. I'm Tanner Knight, and today we've got a special treat in front of us. This is a complete set of vintage Tama Titan hardware from around 1979, I'm going to guess, based on a few factors which we'll get into here in a second. But this is the whole set, I guess maybe minus one extra cymbal stand. We only have the two, one crash and one ride, where I typically like to have a third cymbal in there, either a third crash or a splash. But we do have the hi-hat and the snare stand, the bass kick pedal, which is not the king beat, but it is the high beat, which again, we'll dive into a little bit more. And this one's actually going to get its own video, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the pedal, but it is here. I do want to talk about these cymbal stands and kind of what makes them so revolutionary and why this era of Tama hardware still kind of stands the test of time. So let's dig in. So this set of cymbal stands and I guess the rest of the hardware came with this drum set that I have right behind it. And I'm not utilizing these cymbal stands currently just because I already had these Ludwig ones already set up and in place. So I've just been using the Tama Superstar super mahogany shells with my standard hardware for the most part. The kick pedal is a Tama Iron Cobra 9000 series or 900, whatever it is. But that is the set that this came with. This is a 1979 Tama Superstar set, and this stuff was all bought with it. Even these camber cymbals, I'm assuming, because again, I'm not a cymbal expert per se, especially not camber cymbals, but everything I can tell, these came from the late 70s as well. So I assume all of this stuff was purchased all together, and it was a really awesome package back then, and it's really cool now to see it all in person in actually very good shape. So it was well cared for, and it has some secrets. So let's dive in, starting with this hi-hat stand. Let's start with the branding. These are Tama Titan Stands. And that's a name that is really synonymous with the late 70s, early 80s for Tama hardware. This is kind of their top of the line hardware package that they would offer with their Superstar and Imperial Star drum sets. This is known as the yellow badge or the yellow logo era. I believe it switches to red later on. And just something to note, one thing that sets this Titan series apart from kind of other stands of the era and other Tama stands is that it utilizes a plastic bushing in all of these clamping areas so that it will not have metal on metal, no marring the chrome, so therefore should last longer and be a better situation. But this is what it looks like, and it is a double braced leg system. So we do have beefy double braced legs and nice rubber feet to isolate the sound from the floor as much as possible. And the footbed is kind of long, I'd say. I don't know if it's super long, but let's flip this thing around and look at the footbed. So there's one pivot point right here, and then another pivot point right here that attaches to a metal, I don't know what you call it, like a ribbon almost, but it is a metal bar there that directly attaches to this guy, which houses this spring, and it pulls. If you press on the footboard, you can see that it actuates this little rod, I guess, here, which has a spring housing here. So this is a reverse action spring, I believe, something like that, but you can't see the spring. I assume if you unscrew this nut and maybe unscrew this knurled little cap there, you'll get access to the spring. I may do that to service this thing, but it actually works pretty well. Doesn't need too much lube or attention, so we'll see. But we have one clamp right here to adjust the height of the legs and I guess the width of the legs as well. And then we have another clamp right here that both of them have that rubber or plastic bushing inside that will prevent metal on metal, and then this will raise up and down so that you can get extra or less height on the actual hi-hat. Here's the bottom of this mechanism. It's got a little tilt dial that you can mess with, but looks like it's pretty solid right now. Really good looking system. This has some sort of knurled dial right there. Not exactly sure what that's controlling, but again, another point of control on this hi-hat, and especially the bottom portion. I didn't focus on this here while looking at the footboard, but it does say Tama Owari Asahi Aichi, Japan. And I'm not exactly sure what all that means, but I believe that it's all around the Tama branding of the era. There is a kind of threaded screw that is a spike that will allow you to grab a carpet if you need to, and you can see that it's actually lifting the thing off the ground if I engage it, but I'm going to relieve that. Otherwise, you can see some really nice casting work here. This is all cast, I don't know, steel or something like that, probably steel. And it looks beefy, it looks burly, well designed, and a nice, real firm foot for this thing to sit on. Beefy tubing, at least an inch diameter tubing, and that's the case with all of these stands, as you'll see, really beefy tubing. This particular stand has a memory lock, but I don't see any more on any of the other stands, so this might not be original to this stand, but it is a memory lock nonetheless. And if we look at the clutch, let's just take this whole thing right off of here. It's a pretty nice clutch. On the bottom, we just have this kind of plasticky looking deal, and that accepts the top cymbal. We have felt in between both the bottom and the top, and then these two set screws, or set nuts, I guess is a better terminology, will lock them in place and allow you to set the height of the hi-hat by pressing the pedal and tightening that up. And now it's in a kind of standard hi-hat configuration. Next, let's take a close look at the snare stand. Again, this is the yellow badge Titan era, so all of these will have that same insignia and branding, so nothing out of the norm there. But this is a really beefy, burly type of stand here. You can see that it tightens up on the snare with this winder here, and it winds very nicely. Very wide diameter threads, so it spins very nicely. And these guys are nicely bent. Very good construction. These tips are molded in place apparently, and are resistant to slipping off. And yeah, they feel very, very tough, and they have that angle molded into them, so they're not going anywhere. This little drum deal, they call this the cam drum brake or something like that, and it needs to be spun around to really be appreciated, but if we undo this, it has the ability now to spin forward and aft, apart like that, and you can tilt your snare all the way upside down if you want, or in a more reasonable position, and once it's where you want it, you can lock it in place. So pretty basic adjustment there. Again, this is what tightens and loosens the basically the claws on the actual rim of the snare. And the other point of adjustment we have is height. So again, a nylon bushing that controls this, and it looks like it comes right out if you want, but it goes up pretty tall. A lot taller than I would ever need it. So let's put this back down. And of course, the last bit of adjustability is the width of the legs, or I guess the depth of the legs as well, however you want to think about that. But a lot of adjustability, and you know, you can really tailor this to your specific height, to your specific angle, and it's got all of that really beefy 1 inch plus diameter tubing, so you know that it's not just going to tip over on you. You'll notice that all of the feet are identical on all of this Titan hardware, no matter whether you're on the cymbal stand, the snare stand, or the hi-hat stand. So that's something that unifies all of these across the branding, and is a nice touch. Again, you can expect this pedal to get its own video, and maybe a short video, but still I want to talk about this pedal more on its own and kind of its lineage. But let's just take a quick look at it. We've got a nice old cam roller right here and bearings on the end of the shaft. So this is a bearing driven pedal. And we do have a strap, a nylon strap, which you might have noticed. That's kind of what they used, not as the standard, but before that we had chain driven pedals, it wasn't that uncommon to see a nylon strap just driving it. And some people love the feel of the nylon strap, other people don't, but hey, it is what it is. This is how we lock the pedal down to the rim of the kick drum. And again, we have nice metal casted parts. You can see the seam that indicates that it was cast there. And again, the bearings are replaceable too. So if you do want to replace those bearings, you can on either side. This, interestingly enough, has the spring going up in the air, and it works just like any other spring-driven pedal, but the spring is just going up instead of down to a post down here. Not my favorite aesthetic choice based on the looks of it, but I don't know, it's kind of cool. Otherwise, there's no branding on this footbed, and from what I can tell, that means this is probably an earlier kick pedal than the rest of this hardware. I don't know, it's hard to tell because some of these Hi-Beat pedals had branding, some of them didn't, and there's not really a good consensus on the era in which that occurred. But we do have this Tama beater, which is the felt style, the round, and it's got some weird stains on it, or maybe that's just the outer felt just chipping away and revealing the softer inner bits. But that's what we've got for the pedal, and a big old wing nut holding it on, and yeah, it works just fine. And finally, we have the stands. These are the big dog cymbal stands, and they do have the same exact plastic bushings that we pointed out on the hi-hat stand. So no metal on metal for these guys. Adjustment points down here for the legs, and apparently we have a 36-inch width or circumference, however you want to conceptualize that, but it's a 36-inch span for these legs, and that's a pretty solid foot base for these guys. The other bit of adjustment is here. Well, there's another one above this one, but this one allows you to raise the center inner shaft up higher or lower. And then finally, we have one more point of adjustment right here. Well, two actually. We have this one, which will allow us to raise this up or down a little bit, and then this angle adjustment, which just allows you to adjust the angle of the cymbals. These are identical. There's nothing different between the two of these. They're exactly the same, except for I mounted the cymbals differently to show off one of the interesting features of these stands. In this one, we have, it's a threaded nut is what it's called, but this way it's kind of upside down so that it interfaces with the cymbal and it locks it in place, so it's a lot more secure. It's not moving around. Whereas this one, you can see the nut is closer to the top, and therefore it's a bit more free floating. And it's all plastic on the inside. I'll take this nut right off and show you. But this is how we get the cymbal retained on these stands. So that's the nut. You can either put it in this way or this way. I had this one on this way, and that prevents your cymbal from rubbing on the threaded shaft here. So that's kind of cool. Not really hugely revolutionary, but it definitely retains the cymbals and is different than a couple other different cymbal solutions. Here are our yellow badges once again. The Tama Titan series of hardware. Really nice, thick shafts, thick tubing, and just great double braced legs, solid rubber molded feet. Just ahead of its time for that late 70s, early 80s era. These stands kind of appeared in 1977 with the Titan name. Before that, they had like different Ace names, like Band Ace or Beat Ace or something weird like that. But they were also not double braced, or if they were, they did not advertise it very well, because in 1977 is when we start to see the Titan line with the double braced cymbals, cymbal stands, snare stands, and hi-hat stands, and that branding that we now know as Titan. It comes in 77, and in 78, 79, we have kind of more of the same, and then they changed things up slightly in 1980, which 80 was a really big watershed year for Tama, and a lot of things changed between the drums and the hardware, but this is kind of right before that big change, and still excellent, really great quality hardware, but just one generation removed from, I guess, what everybody considers the quintessential vintage Tama Titan hardware. So this set of hardware is currently for sale. I really hate to let it go because it matches not one Tama set, but two Tama Superstar sets. I have 80 and 1979 side by side in Super Maple and Super Mahogany. So you would think one of these cymbal stands would fit in well with one of those kits. But I already have my Ludwig stuff set up, and it's about the same. I don't know, it's a little less quality, we'll say, but I think that these have value as a set, and it's something that a Tama collector could really enjoy, pimping out a Superstar set or an Imperial Star set with this line of hardware all in one fell swoop. So if you're interested, let me know in the comments, reach out, and we can talk about a deal getting these cymbals to, or cymbal stands to you rather, and the snare stand as well. If you're interested in just one of them, if you're just looking to finish the set and you have the rest, then let me know, we can talk, but I'd like to sell these as a unit if possible. We'll see. I'm not gonna make any promises, but it is nice to see this stuff in one place and to see how quality it really was 40 plus years later. Here we are in 2025. This is over 45 years later, and it's still rock solid. So, have you ever used the Tama Titan line of hardware? Have you ever used the Tama Superstar line of drums? Let me know. I always love to hear what you have to say about this stuff, and if you have any questions or if I made any errors, please feel free to correct me. I'm not 100% correct at all times, but trying to put this stuff together 45 years later, and this is the information that I have. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you like this type of content, and look out for that bass drum video, bass drum pedal video that is. I'm gonna focus on that here shortly and really do a deep dive into what this pedal is and has and how it fits into this line of hardware. So let me know what you think. I will see you on the next one.